Mr. Derek Babcock with us. Derek is an independent business owner who has been in the trenches fighting for conservative Republican values for well over 20 years. Derek has served on numerous boards and committees, including the Louisiana Family Forum, the American Judicial Alliance, Health Agents for America, and Life Builders International, to name a few. In his local community, he has served as chairman of the Livingston Parish Republican Executive Committee, chairman of the Citizens for Highways and Infrastructure, and he's been very active with his local Chamber of Commerce. He recently served as an alternate delegate to the 2012 and delegate to the 2016 and 24 Republican National Conventions. Derek is here today in his capacity as the newly elected chairman of the Republican Party of Louisiana. So join me in welcoming Mr. Babcock. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And I don't feel like I'm short. I think this podium is tall because it's way up. I can hardly see my nose. So, but it's a pleasure to be here. See a lot of familiar faces. And I'm actually a member of the press club as well. I try to make as many meetings as I can. I've been busy since being elected, traveling the state, obviously. And my business partner's here. He asked me if I was ever going to come back to work. And I try to make it as much as I can, but it has kept me busy. I can't say that I don't enjoy it because I really do. I feel like I'm actually getting to do my part to help make a difference in the state and in Louisiana and in our country as well. But it's an honor to be the chairman of the Republican Party. It's the greatest day in Louisiana, in my opinion, to be a Republican. So we've got every statewide elected office are Republicans. We have 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate. Both of our U.S. senators are Republican, and for the first time in the 240-year history of our Congress, out of 435 members, Louisiana actually controls the two most powerful positions in Congress, which are our Speaker Mike Johnson and then Majority Leader Steve Scalise. So I'm very proud of what the Republican Party's been able to do in Louisiana. A lot of people ask me, what are your goals? And I'll tell them my first priority is don't screw it up. Things are pretty good. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Hey. All right. We'll give y'all just a second. Y'all want me to wait just a second to get your camera on, or how? Keep going? All right. Let me get some water, too. All right. So as chairman, obviously one of my goals is to grow the Republican Party. And so when I got elected, of course, I want to kind of benchmark myself, see where we're at. And so Republican Party registrations is one way that we're going to grow the party. So what I did is I went back and I looked at trends over the last 20 years, looked at voter registration, and overall in Louisiana, registrations were up about 17% in the last 20 years. Now, I looked at the last 10 years, we're actually only up 2%. And this is total registration, independent, Republican, Democrat. And I think that that's probably indicative of what we see right now with the outward migration of our citizens and our young people going to other states to find an opportunity out there, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. But then, of course, you have the breakdown is Democrat, Republican, and other being no party, independents. And then within those categories, you have white, black, and other breakdowns of the registrations. And so, first of all, I looked at what are the Republican registrations versus Democrat. And over the last 20 years, the Democrat Party has actually lost 21.4% of their registrations overall. The majority of that has been in the white. They've lost 52.4%. They've added 16.2% black, 88% other. The Republican Party is actually doing well. We're up about 68.5% overall. In the white, we're up 70.1%, but in the minority category, we're actually down. We've lost 8.3% of our registrations, net loss, over the last 20 years. So, that's a concern to me. That's one of my priorities is to reach out to that minority vote. I believe a lot of minorities that I know are very conservative people. They actually believe in the pro-life issue, and they God-fearing, country-loving Americans. They're very conservative people, and I believe we can change that trend, and I've got some numbers here in just a minute that we'll talk about. But the category that I'm really looking at, too, is this other registration. People who don't want to identify as a Republican or a Democrat, and others, they're actually up 70.4%. So they've actually increased more over the last 20 years than Democrats or Republicans. So now there's still more Democrats and more Republicans than there are other, but the greatest increase has been in that category of people who have chosen not to identify with a political party. And so for me, you know what? I'm glad I'm not registered Democrat. Sorry, my Democrat friends in here. And I'll just tell you, look, I tell everybody, I am a diehard conservative Republican, but I'm also a guy that believes in good ideas. And I don't care if they're your idea or my idea, I want to help pursue good ideas. But as chairman of the Republican Party, I'm happy to see that the non-Democrat registrations are up considerably versus the Democrat registrations. So I obviously looked at when I took over where we stand this year, and so I can tell you this year, total registrations are up 1.4%. Democrats are actually down 1% from October 1st, well, January 1st till October 1st. So this year, they've actually lost registration. They're down right now just about 12,000. Must have had a voter registration drive last month, because last month they were down 15,000. So they did add some before the election. But we are actually up 4.1%. And we've actually gained in the minority category 896 new members in the Republican. Now, the other category, they're up 4%. So there's almost as many non-party affiliated registrations as there are Republican affiliations. So again, I see that as an opportunity for us to reach out. Look, I think it's important to identify with a party that represents the values. I think people should stand for things in their lives, and so identifying with a political party, in my opinion, is important and something that we should do. And so, it's, a lot of people that I know that are independent are very pro-life people, and yet, the Republican Party is very clear about our issue or our position on pro-life, and yet they don't register Republicans. So my goal next year is to pass Democrat registrations. We started out this year, we were 136,000 behind Democrats. We're currently 89,000 behind Democrats. So we've made some good gains this year. My goal next year is that we would surpass the Democrat registrations, and I have assured my Republican friends we'll throw a party when that happens. So what are we doing to do that? Obviously, we're voter registration, party change. We're focused on the minority community, and I'm working with some groups to outreach to the black minority community. Young people are one of my biggest concerns. When you poll issues of the Republican Party, you poll issues like the pro-life issue, the marriage issue, you poll non-social like free enterprise, and you break those issues down by age category, and you get to the 18 to 25-year-old age category, a lot of these young people don't agree with the Republican Party. And so that's a concern to me. And so I've got an agenda to reach that young generation, because that is the future of our country. The older I get, I've learned how important it is to reach these young people. And so, look, we're going to grow. They used to have these groups called TARs. It was Teenage Republicans in the high schools, and I don't even know that we have these anymore. So I'm working with Turning Point, some other groups, to do some outreach into the high schools, but also into the community colleges, the universities, all over our state, to put an LAGOP presence on these campuses. And look, I don't think that these young people want to hear political speeches. That's not my intention. What I intend to do is go out there and have a presence, be light in a dark world. I believe that you influence people through relationship. And so that's our goal, is to go out there, be a presence on these campuses, build a relationship with these young people, and then through that relationship, we're able to influence them for the Republican side. And look, I think that when you look at, we'll talk about national elections in just a minute, but when you look at a lot of these young people, while they may still be voting more on the Democrat side, we're seeing more and more start to come over to the conservative side. So I'm encouraged by that. Another one of my agendas is party unity. The RSCC, which is the legislative body for the Republican Party, it's made up of 230 elected members from around the state. They are the legislative body for the party. And, you know, it's no secret. There's been some turmoil within. Anytime you have human beings involved, you're going to have disagreements, and we're no different. But my business partner's here today with me, and we have a little saying in our office, and this is what I'm telling everybody in the party is, you know, I'm committed to hearing everyone out and trying to bring our party together. And our little saying in our office is problems are inevitable and drama is optional. And so, you know, we're 230 different people, different ideas, different perspectives. And so it's okay. We can disagree on issues. But at the end of the day, we've got to figure out how to come together and work together on the things that we can't agree on. And so that's what we're committed to. And I tell people, too, you teach by what you say, what you do, and what you allow. And so we're not going to allow some of the things that have happened in the past in our party. We're going to bring everybody together. And look, I want unity, but I'm not going to tell you I want unity for the sake of unity. That'd be great. But I want unity for the sake of winning. Because if we can't come together and work together on the things that we agree on, and we're going to fight over these little nitpicky issues that we can't agree on, we're going to destroy ourselves. So, look, it's unity for the sake of winning, in my opinion, and I'm committed to doing that. As chairman of the party, we're going to work with the legislature more than we have in the past. The last, gosh, I don't know, over a decade at least, the Republican Party hasn't had much of a relationship with our legislature. We haven't done much as far as weighing in on legislation, a few little things here and there. But I've been a part of a number of different groups over the years, and we're very involved. Louisiana Family Forum Bill, we're very involved in the legislature. We're very involved in weighing in on bills that are being heard, either to promote a good bill or fight a bad bill. And so I have these relationships over the years that I've been involved in other groups. I bring that to the Republican Party, and it's my conviction that the Republican Party needs to be more involved in legislation. You'll see us do more next year. But, you know, I was a part of a little group the last couple of years. Some of y'all know Bernie Pinsonat in this room. I think Bernie was a part too. Bernie's a good friend of mine, and he came to us several years ago and said, you know, there's elections coming up in 22 or 23, and, you know, we need to start targeting some of these different districts where we know a legislator's term limited or they're going to move on to another position. And so we started 2 years out. In fact, Bernie started a little bit further out, but 2 years out, going to these different districts, meeting with people locally, and identifying people that would be good to run for these different House and Senate seats. And we got involved in quite a few races, over 30. And we're very successful in that endeavor. And I believe, and we've elected some great legislators to the legislature. And so, you know, that's the party in the past has not been quite so involved in that, and we will be going forward. Again, we had a very successful endeavor this last go-round. I wasn't chairman at the time, but I absolutely intend to duplicate that again in the next election cycle. We're going to weigh in on legislation. Like I said, I still think we need a constitutional convention. That's my opinion. I just think that to right the ship in a lot of ways, so many things are in the Constitution need to be moved to statute and allow our elected legislators the flexibility to make the changes that need to be made to right the ship out. So I still think we need a constitutional convention. I'm not sure where we're at on that, so I'm not going to say any more other than I'm still of the opinion that we need it. I am happy to see that we're getting it looks like a special session on taxes. I think that, you know, any direction, movement in the right direction is good. I don't think it's going to be perfect when they do this, but, you know, they're going to start to kind of flatten the tax, make it more simple and fair. And, you know, studies today show that we're 40th in tax code in the country. And the proposed changes right now, and they're still being ironed out, but would put us more in line with states like North Carolina, and they're saying we would come in around 8th. And so anything we can do to simplify our tax code, make it more friendly for business to come into Louisiana, to give our children more opportunity to keep them here, I'm for that. So insurance is another issue. I'm actually in the insurance business, and I'll tell you, I make 2 to 3 meetings a week, traveling all over the state. Insurance is always an issue that comes up. It's a crisis in our state. We see it. We have an independent agency. We're not captive to anybody, but the problem is access to markets. And when you don't have access to markets and rates are going up, it's tough on everyone. And look, I'm going to say, premiums are driven by the cost of claims. And I say cost of claims because claims happen in every state. People get in car wrecks. Everybody's got natural disasters. In the Gulf, we've got hurricanes. In California and other states, they have wildfires. They got blizzards and snowstorms and other. Everybody has their disaster that they deal with. Claims happen in every state. It's the cost of the claims that drives the premiums. And the average cost of claims in Louisiana is much higher than every other state. And until we can start to reduce the cost of claims in Louisiana, we're not going to bring our premiums down. We're not going to attract new carriers to this state. And I've heard people say, oh, the insurance companies are making more money than they've ever made in their lives. Well, if they were, they'd be flocking here to come make that money, and they're just not. That's why they're leaving. So cost of claims is what drives premiums. I know a lot of bills were handled this year to help get that down, and I know our governor's committed to handling this issue, and so I appreciate him for that, and we're going to continue to help. And then on the social agendas, for me and for the Republican Party, look, I was proud to see them pass a bill to put the 10 Commandments back in schools. I was proud to see that happen. I think that, we need to be teaching our children that things matter, and so we're going to push some social agendas. We've got the November elections coming up, and, well, what do we got? Just over 2 weeks now. So obviously in Louisiana, we've got a couple congressional races. Congressional District 6. Now we've endorsed in 2 and 6. We've actually endorsed in all of them. 2 and 6 are some pretty competitive races. So Christy Lynch in 2, but Albert Guillory is who we endorsed in Congressional District 6. And that's obviously the very new drawn district. And so, look, I think Albert Guillory's got a great chance at winning that race. He's a proven commodity. He's been in the legislature for years. He was a good, strong conservative. Actually was a Democrat when he went in. Was the first minority Democrat senator to change his party affiliation to Republican while in office. First in Louisiana history. And so in his words, he's got the coconuts to do what needs to be done to stand for conservative values. So, but, they drew this district, and it's essentially, 55 black, 45 other white. And so you'd say, oh, well, it's a 10% spread. You can't overcome that. It's 10%. But if you look at the voter propensity, the turnout of these voters, historically, the 55% black is about 62% of them actually turn out to vote. When you look at white and other, it's about 73%. And so when you extrapolate that down to actual voter turnout, which is what matters in an election, the spread really is about 51.85 to 48.15. So we've done this math, so I know the numbers. So it's really a 3.7% spread, which is within the 4% margin of error. So again, it's all about voter turnout. It's not a 10% spread, it's a 3.7. And in addition to that, he's the only Republican on this ballot, which we were very instrumental to make sure that happened. I was thrilled to see we had one candidate on the ballot for Republicans to vote for. And then you've got the presidential election. And, I believe people are very motivated to go out and vote for Donald Trump this year, especially in Louisiana. I've gone around, I did several of these Trump boat parades. You had boats lined up for a mile, 2 miles in some of these things. I never once saw a Kamala Harris boat parade. So people are excited to get out and vote for Donald Trump, especially in Louisiana. And I believe when they go out and vote for Trump, they're going to vote down ballot for Albert Guillory. So I think Albert's got a very good opportunity to win this race. We'll see how it turns out here soon. But obviously the big election right now is the presidential race. Look, they always say, oh, this election is the most important election, and certainly every election is an important election. But in my opinion, this really is the most critical election in our nation's history. There's two very different set of ideas that we're voting for. And so, in my opinion, we can't afford 4 more years of failed policies that we've seen. When you look at national defense, our enemies are not afraid of us. And if you think back to, you remember the balloon that floated over our country a couple years ago? This Chinese balloon comes over, and America, with some of the most technologically advanced weaponry in the world, we sit here and we watch this balloon float across our country while China does whatever they're wanting to do, and we can't figure out what to do with the thing. And as the rest of the world watches, and really China's making a mockery of us, this balloon floats across, and they don't shoot it down until it gets across the country out over the Atlantic Ocean. Then finally they shoot it down. And so, last October, if y'all remember, Biden gave Iran a warning last October. Remember what his warning was? Remember what it was? Don't. Yeah, don't was the warning he gave to Iran. And since last October, Iranian proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah have attacked and killed U.S. soldiers. They've attacked U.S. Navy ships. They've shot down U.S. military drones. And Iran has attacked Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East. And so they're not afraid of us. You look at the borders. Borders are wide open. Obviously, Vice President Harris was the border czar or whatever, but borders are wide open. A lot of this crime that we see today, the increasing crime rates in our country or violent crime, are from illegal immigrants coming to this country. The drug crisis we're dealing with, fentanyl, something's got to be done about it, and nothing's being done about it right now. Energy, 3.5 years ago, we were energy independent. We had stockpiles of reserves right over here in Hackberry, Louisiana. And today they've drained a lot of those reserves, and we're dependent on foreign countries to provide energy for us. The economy, arguably one of the worst. I'm 51 years old. I've never seen inflation like I see today in this country. Groceries are up, goods and services. Look, there's a Cane's Chicken across this parking lot. My office is right here by X Factor. And so I go to that Cane's Chicken more than I should. 3.5 years ago, I go over there, get my little 3-finger combo with the half and half tea, and it was $7.51. Today, I'll go over there, it's $10.18, 3.5 years later. And it affects everyone, every socioeconomic level. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. We're all paying the same higher prices because of the policies that we've seen. So, look, overwhelmingly, people know they were better off 3.5 years ago than they are today. So, Butler, Pennsylvania, talk about that. So, we have a man who's running for president who loves this country. I believe was one of the greatest presidents in our history. Has had, policies that made our country great. And, when y'all remember July 13th, and of course, the attempted assassination on President Trump. And just the other day, of course, he went back to the very same location where they attempted to take his life. And in my opinion, that was very telling to me. That is the American spirit. We don't let these people who come against us intimidate us, and we don't cower to our enemies. And so I was thrilled to see him go back and speak in Butler, Pennsylvania. And in fact, and it's just kind of, we were at the national convention, and he was talking about that experience, and obviously, the bullet barely missed him. He was turning to point to the immigration chart that was behind him, but what I haven't heard him tell, which he told us in a somewhat private meeting at the RNC, was actually as he started to turn his head, a truck was going by on the road on the side of that property. And as he turned his head, he paused briefly because the truck caught his attention, and that was when the bullet went. had he not turned, obviously it would have hit him. Had he not paused for that brief second, his head would have been further around and the bullet would have hit him. So, look, I believe God spared his life in that moment, and but I believe it was a great encouragement to a lot of people when he went back to Butler, Pennsylvania, to finish his speech over there. So we're doing a lot to try to help President Trump. This is a man who is a very wealthy man. He could live a very nice, comfortable life anywhere he wants to in the world, but he continues to fight for our country, and he's done it over so much opposition. They've tried to impeach him, they've tried to incarcerate him, they've tried to assassinate him, and yet he continues to fight for us. He doesn't back down. And so we're doing everything we can as the Louisiana GOP. Look, I believe he's going to win Louisiana overwhelmingly. But what we need to do is we need to send teams out to these battleground states. And so that's what we're doing. We're organizing teams to put boots on the ground, to go knock door to door. We have some phone banking that we do that people can just do from their home. If you have access to a computer and internet, you can get on Trump Force 47 and start to take phone calls to these voters in these battleground states. And so we're doing everything we can. I think back to that day, July 13th, and we were in Milwaukee. It was right before the convention happened, and we're just in a room. We're preparing things for delegates coming in, and we weren't watching it. But of course, the news headline comes across, and so we turn on the TV. And you see this empty podium there, and you're just waiting in suspense. You don't know what happened. Did he get shot? Did he not get shot? And then that moment comes when he stands up, and Secret Service is holding him up, and you see the blood running down his face, and it just hit me, how real this is, and how close we came to, being in a very different place today. But President Trump raised his fist and said, "Fight." And I'm going to tell you right now, Louisiana Republican Party is going to do everything we can to fight to help him win this election. And so we're doing that. Look, my friend Gene Mills, he told me the other day, he said, "Derek, people say Louisiana is a very poor state." And y'all probably heard it. I've heard it all my life. Louisiana is a very poor state. In fact, Representative Mark Wright was talking to me the other day, and he was talking about a report that he saw about rich states, poor states. Louisiana's a poor state. And I've been here 51 years. I grew up in Louisiana. Grew up in Slidell, actually. And look, I have enjoyed abundant fishing and hunting in Louisiana. I go around the state. I meet the nicest people you ever want to meet. I've been in other states around the country. I wouldn't want to be anyplace else. The best food, rich in history and culture, rich in natural resources. He told me, "Derek, Louisiana's not a poor state. We've just been very poorly managed." And I think today, we have an opportunity to change that. I was with Commissioner Tim Temple the other day, and he referenced the U2 song, "It's a Beautiful Day, Don't Let It Get Away." And I think today we've got that opportunity. I think that we've got the right people in the right place, willing to make the right decisions to right the ship in Louisiana. I think we're going to see a difference. I'm encouraged by the things that I've seen. There was a lot of work to do when Governor Landry got elected. And, these poor legislators, a lot of them freshmen, they thought they got signed up for a part-time job, and they've learned that this is a very full-time job. And so I feel bad for them. They've kind of been thrown into the fire. But I think they're doing an excellent job. And again, look, haven't had perfect sessions or anything, but I think we're on the right track, and I think things are coming together. So with that, I'll go ahead and we can take some questions. If we have one. Okay. I thought you might.
When you were speaking about the problems with President Trump, when you mentioned assassination,
Yep.
several times you used the word they. Now, we're talking about an attempted murder.
Right.
I want to know, are you speaking from your perspective, or are you speaking on the perspective of the Louisiana Republican Party when you say they tried to murder President Trump?
I would be, well, from my perspective, I mean, obviously, many conversations that I've had, and, but they is, what, I guess and so what he's asking is, I'm saying they tried to assassinate him. What perspective am I speaking from? And that would be, obviously, my personal perspective, but I am chairman of the Louisiana Republican Party, and a lot of people, I mean, clearly someone tried to assassinate him, and so they is a relative term. So they is yet to be defined. Although hopefully at some point we can define who that is. But certainly someone tried to assassinate President Trump, and so. But that would be, I don't know. Am I answering your question or no? What is the? Okay, help me understand the question again. You're saying, from my perspective.
Are you an attorney, sir?
I'm not an attorney now. Yeah.
The big difference between he or she and they.
Right.
You're talking about an attempted murder.
Right.
And you said they.
Right.
You got to understand with somebody.
There's been more than one attempt, correct? But they, in my, not an attorney, not legal opinion, I guess, but they is we don't know who this person is. Obviously, we know who fired the gun in Butler, Pennsylvania, but we don't know all of the details behind it and how this was orchestrated. So I don't know. They is yet to be defined, but yeah. Okay.
You were talking about insurance costs and the cost of companies, and one of the problems being the cost of claims.
Yeah.
So when you say cost of claims, is it that, I mean, if people are making claims based on the cost of replacing a house, say, that gets flooded, I mean, how much can they actually do about the cost that the insurance companies find so objectionable?
Well, you can look at, the fact is, if you look at claims in Louisiana and claims in Mississippi or Texas or other states, statistically they are significantly higher, sometimes double. So what they are in Louisiana, they're higher. So all of the reasons for that, you kind of start to get down into the weeds on some of that. But there's some insurance fraud that takes place, and I know Commissioner Temple, in fact, actually took action against a roofing company the other day who was committing some fraudulent activities, and so things like that obviously increase the cost. There's I think some legal reform that needs to still be taken care of, but statistically, when you look at the numbers, the cost per claim in Louisiana is higher than most other states. So until we can get the cost per claim down, the premiums are not going to come down, and carriers are not going to come back to our state. Yep.
So, echoing from what you just said in that answer, talking about getting in the weeds. So if we can get into the weeds, so as y'all study Texas and Mississippi, and you throw it down in Florida, have y'all identified what is there a different thing that they are doing there? They're getting into the same part of things. What are they doing to all the same insurers leaving their state? If so, or if not, why? Have y'all identified, is there a particular line of business that's happening in this state that creates this cost of claims elevation?
So he's asked, is there a particular line of business and then specific reasons why the claims are higher or they're leaving? Yeah. I mean, and again, it does get in the weeds now. I think Commissioner Temple's doing an excellent job at drilling down. I know he's got quite a few teams he's put together to help identify reasons. They have like the fortified roofing program right now that I think is starting to help. And some of these things, changes you put in place today, you're not going to see the effects of them for a couple of years. And so you have to let these things play out and demonstrate that they are starting to reduce the cost of claims. But housing is one. Access to reinsurance is another. A lot of the carriers who have left are because either the reinsurance was too expensive or they just couldn't even get it in Louisiana. So I know he's been making quite a few trips to London, meeting with different groups, trying to get access to reinsurance and reduce cost reinsurance. So, but I know too, and he's mentioned this, the personal injury, when you talk about auto insurance and personal injury claims, and he made the sort of the comment that I don't believe people in Louisiana are softer than other people in other states, yet the personal injury claims in Louisiana are significantly higher, and so that obviously helps drive up the cost of those claims. So,
With the no party keeping growing, and it's been doing it for a good number of years, from even when I was back in the day, I was covering it. What does that say about the Republican and Democratic Party, the shape of them in this state?
Yeah. So she was asking about the growth in no party and what that says about the Republican and Democrat Party in the state. And, it's a good question. And that's one I'm trying to figure out, because for me, again, I said, I'm encouraged that they're not registering Republican. I'm sorry. They're not registering Democrat, although they're not registering Republican. And look, let me give you some more numbers on the others, because this was interesting to me. I look at, again, the categories are white, black, other. And so in the black minority registration in Louisiana, the growth for black Democrats over the last 20 years, 16.2%. The growth in other registrations, meaning black minorities who are registering as independent no party, 89.1%. So blacks who are registering to vote overwhelmingly are registering more as other rather than anything. So, in my opinion, again, I think a lot of my friends who are part of that minority community are actually very conservative people, and their values align with the Republican Party. They just haven't made that leap to register Republican. And so that for me is probably our greatest opportunity, is to reach out to those people in that other category to talk to them about Republican values and why it matters to register Republican and identify with the values of the Republican Party.
And that's been happening for a bunch of years. Both Democrats and Republicans have been trying to get them.
Yes.
But they keep going up. So
Right.
something's not hitting with them
Right.
among both parties.
Right. Oh, I agree. And look, we were losing for a while. So we've only started just this year to actually gain. We gained about 3% new net gain in black registrations for Republican Party. So.
As the chairman of the Louisiana Republican Party, please share your insights and thoughts on the local mayoral race here in the capital city of Baton Rouge.
Okay. So she asked about my insight on the local mayoral race in East Baton Rouge. Look, I think we have a great candidate in Sid Edwards. We've endorsed Sid Edwards. We're doing everything we can to help him win, and I would love to see a Republican elected to the second largest city in this state. So we've got a Republican in Shreveport, we've got a Republican in Lake Charles, and I think we have a real opportunity this year to elect a Republican in East Baton Rouge Parish, and so we're doing everything we can to help him win that race. And again, he's a well-known, well-liked candidate that I think would do a great job, and we're doing everything we can to help him. So.
What are the polls showing?
I've seen a lot of polls. Look, I've seen a lot of polls, but they're always encouraging and continue to get better. And so, I've seen him neck and neck with Ted James. I've seen him neck and neck with Sharon Brew. I mean, it's the polls are. Of course, there's a lot of them out there, but like I said, they're all encouraging, and every time we see a new one, they tend to get better for Sid Edwards. So I'm encouraged. I think we've got an opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes.
Before I get to my one question, I want to reiterate about Mr. Gillis.
Yeah.
I've seen his Facebook and I've seen was just amazed at where this man been. You talking about he was a Democrat, but when he was a civil rights leader and everything. He worked in administration with Nixon.
He did.
Way back then. He taught in Washington. He's just a renaissance man. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
How much that man did. He might be older, but he is something else. My question is, you watching, I watch both all stations, CNN and Fox, you watching these polls, and y'all do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back to look at the last election, so when Hillary Clinton was running, they leave. What's your thoughts right now on how accurate or how close are those polls that are coming from all of the different areas? Which ones do you think are the most accurate?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was watching a news story about these polls, and they have a really hard time. These pollsters making calls. A lot of people don't want to take the poll, and over the years I've actually come to learn to appreciate these polls and these calls that I get that want to survey me on my opinion of different issues. And what I've really found is that by answering the poll, I actually can help to influence someone's position politically, or whatever priorities they have politically. So not to get away from your question, but he asked about the polls and the accuracy of the polls. And I think when you look back to the Clinton, and it looked like Clinton, all the polls were in her favor, and then of course that election went very differently. And I think when you look at it this year, and it looks like it's a very close race, but at the same time, when you look at what they say the advantages are, they're not as big as they were during the Clinton years, or even during the Biden. We know that, but just in I think it was North Carolina, and they were looking at the Democrat registrations, and there was an 8% separation. There were 8% more Democrats than Republicans. Today, there's 4% more Democrats than Republicans, and so their advantages are coming down. And I think I'm encouraged. It's a tight election. We got to do. I tell everybody, it's like I ran cross country and track in high school, a little bit in college, and when you're running that race, and cross country is a 3-mile race, you're running that race, you're going 2.5 miles, and you're pushing hard. But when you get to that last half mile, you dig down deep to find every little last ounce of energy you got, and you got to finish strong. And that's what we've got to do these next 2.5 weeks. So, all right.
Sir, I'm curious about your voter registrations. You say you want to reach out to minority groups and bring in that coalition into the Republican Party.
Right.
We've seen, in the same way as this shift to other, politically, we've seen shift to other religiously as well across the United States. And yet, you say you're pushing for legislation like the Ten Commandments in the classroom. Is there a place for this other religious group in your party moving forward? Oh,
absolutely, yeah. So he's asking if there's a place for the other religious group in the Republican Party. 100%. And what I don't like to see is, I saw a study the other day, just last week, 48% of evangelical Christians actually vote. And I think that's a shame. God established government. God sent people before kings for his purpose. I believe he's called us to be salt and light, and we ought to be voting. We ought to be weighing in on these issues, and they're not. And so, and look, the Republican Party stands for issues such as pro-life and a lot of these Christian values that I think Christians should be involved in. I think that I think people should identify and align themselves with a party that represents their values rather than a party that just doesn't really represent any values. So, not that independents and no parties have values, but there's not a platform for a no-party person, whereas Republicans do have a platform. So.
But you say that young people are not voting the same way. How do you suggest about building your platform that way if the legislation is not matching?
Wait, help me understand that again? Now you're saying on the young people.
Young people, 18 to 25, vote differently, have different priorities than the party platform of the Republican Party that you've seen the past 50 years. How do you go about addressing that?
Well, and so like I said, I feel like by building a relationship and, talking to them about why it's important to defend the most innocent lives in our society, the unborn, the pro-life issue, why it's important to, value free enterprise and the values of our founding fathers. And I mean, I believe those are the values of the Republican Party. And so that's how I intend to do it, is by talking to them about the things in life that matter and why they matter and why they should stand up for them. So,
Last question.
last question. All right.
Short, real short.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, we heard your counterpart with the Louisiana Democratic Party say a lot of the same things that you said. And there are some things we need to agree on and work toward accomplishing. Can you promise to the members of the Baton Rouge Press Club, I know what y'all got highlights on things in this election, but when this election is over, can you promise to meet with the chairman of the Democratic Party and try to agree on some things that we can do to move Louisiana forward?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've said from the beginning, I'm all about good ideas. I mean, I have my values, which are conservative Republican values, but we all live in the same community. We go to the same stores. We drive on the same roads. And I mean, I'm all about good ideas. And so if whoever's good idea it is, I want to help promote it. So, yeah, I'd be happy to meet with him. I've met with the previous Democrat chair. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Just a quick reminder that our guest next week will be Secretary of State Nancy Landry. Thank you.